Let's talk about Luke chapter 11 in 5 minutes. If you want this free handout, you can get it in the link down below. When did the events of this chapter take place? Well, they're part of Jesus' earthly ministry, and this took place between 30 and 33 AD. As far as the characters in this chapter, we have 5 major ones. Jesus, of course, the Son of God. Then Jesus' disciples. They come to Jesus. They want to know how to pray, and he teaches them. Then we have the Pharisees and the lawyers. They were critics of Jesus, and they were trying to catch him doing something wrong. Then in the 4th place, we have a name, not really a character, but the name Beelzebul. And this name is associated with Satan and Satan's power. And it probably originated all the way back in the city of Ekron as an idol of the Philistines. Finally, Jonah, a prophet from the Old Testament who got swallowed by a whale. Where did the events of this chapter take place? Well, it's kind of hard to say. Luke doesn't mention any specific names, but based on Mark chapter 3, verse 20 through 22, we can kind of figure out that it probably happened in the region of Galilee, specifically the city of Capernaum. Let's break the chapter down now and go through its sections. We've got 4 total sections. The first one is verses 1 through 13. Jesus teaches the disciples to pray. So having observed Jesus praying, one of his disciples approached him and said, "Can you teach us to pray as well?" And so Jesus taught them a model prayer, and the model prayer went like this: "Father, hallowed be your name, your kingdom come. Give us each day our daily bread, and forgive us our sins, for we ourselves forgive everyone who is indebted to us, and lead us not into temptation." After teaching the disciples how to pray, Jesus assured them that God hears their prayers and that he is the best gift giver and the best provider. In the second section, verses 14 through 23, we encounter this weird name of Beelzebul. So the Pharisees and the lawyers, they were trying to get Jesus to perform miracles so that they could figure out a way to discredit him. When Jesus healed a mute man of an evil spirit, the Pharisees accused him of using Beelzebul's power to do it. They were basically suggesting he was using Satan's power to cast out Satan's demon. Jesus immediately calls them out on this and just points out how ridiculous it is. It's ridiculous to think Satan is furthering his cause by fighting against himself. Jesus had the ability to take what belonged to Satan and to cast him out, not because he was working for him, but because he has the power of God, and God was more powerful than Satan. Verses 24 through 36 are kind of hard to summarize under one section title, and so I just put Jesus speaks on a variety of topics. So first, there's a woman in the crowd, comes to Jesus, and she blesses his mother for the privilege of having him as a son. Jesus, though, turns her attention and says that those who are genuinely really blessed are those who keep his words. Jesus then moves on, speaking to his critics again, tells them that they're not going to receive any more miraculous signs except for the sign of the prophet Jonah. He then goes on to rebuke the Jews who were standing there, especially his critics, telling them that there were Gentiles in the Old Testament, like the people of Nineveh and the queen of the south, who were wiser than the Jews of his day. Last, Jesus spoke briefly about the dangers of falling into the darkness of sin, and how if you reject the light of God, that will be your ultimate fate, and it's not a good one. The concluding section, verses 37 through 54, are woes upon the Pharisees and the lawyers. So a Pharisee invites Jesus to come over to his house for a meal. And while Jesus is in his house, Jesus begins rebuking the Pharisees for their corruption. He then turns halfway through his discourse, and he begins rebuking the lawyers who were present there for their hypocrisy. And then the chapter concludes with the Pharisees and the lawyers going out and being doubly determined to try to destroy Jesus in whatever way possible. What do we see in the big picture then, bigger than this chapter, really talking about the whole Bible? Couple things. Well, we'll stick with one, I guess. In this chapter, Jesus talked about his power over Satan and how he had the power to take away Satan's power. And this was shown by casting out the mute spirit. But really, Jesus' entire life illustrates this point. Satan's greatest powers were sin and death. And Jesus conquered both of those powers when he died and then was resurrected. And he took what belonged to Satan. He made sinners into saints. And then before I leave you, one takeaway. I want to encourage you to take some time to meditate on the failings of the Pharisees and the lawyers. I think part of the reason that Jesus spends so much time talking to the Pharisees and the lawyers in the Gospels is because many of the motivations that led them into their sins are also present in our hearts and need to be killed before they turn us into men like them.